Convicted murderer Lisa Montgomery dies by lethal injection, first federal execution of female in nearly 70 years. A Kansas woman was executed Wednesday for strangling an expectant mother in Missouri and cutting the baby from her womb. The first time in nearly 7 decades that the U.S. government has put to death a female inmate. Lisa Montgomery, 52, was pronounced dead at 1:31 a.m. after receiving a lethal injection at the federal prison complex in Terre Haute, Indiana. She was the 11th prisoner to receive a lethal injection there since July, when President Donald Trump, an ardent supporter of capital punishment, resumed federal executions following 17 years without one. As a curtain was raised in the execution chamber, Montgomery looked momentarily bewildered as she glanced at journalists peering at her from behind thick glass. As the execution process began, a woman standing over Montgomery's shoulder leaned over, gently removed Montgomery's face mask and asked her if she had any last words. "No," Montgomery responded in a quiet, muffled voice. She said nothing else. She tapped her fingers nervously for several seconds, a heart-shaped tattoo on her thumb, showed no signs of distress, and quickly closed her eyes. As the lethal injection began, Montgomery kept licking her lips and gasped briefly as pentobarbital, a lethal drug, entered her body through IVs on both arms. A few minutes later, her midsection throbbed for a moment, but quickly stopped. Montgomery lay on a gurney in the pale green execution chamber, her glasses on and her grayish-brown hair spilling over a green medical pillow. At 1:30 a.m., an official in black gloves with a stethoscope walked into the room, listened to her heart and chest, then walked out. She was pronounced dead a minute later. The craven bloodlust of a failed administration was on full display tonight, Montgomery's attorney, Kelly Henry, said in a statement. Everyone who participated in the execution of Lisa Montgomery should feel shame. The government stopped at nothing in its zeal to kill this damaged and delusional woman, Henry said. Lisa Montgomery's execution was far from justice. It came after hours of legal wrangling before the Supreme Court cleared the way for the execution to move forward. Montgomery was the first of the final 3 federal inmates scheduled to die before next week's inauguration of President-elect Joe Biden, who is expected to discontinue federal executions. But a federal judge for the District of Columbia halted the scheduled executions later this week of Corey Johnson and Dustin Higgs in a ruling Tuesday. Johnson, convicted of killing 7 people related to his drug trafficking in Virginia, and Higgs, convicted of ordering the murders of 3 women in Maryland. Both tested positive for COVID-19 last month. Montgomery killed 23-year-old Bobby Jo Stinnett in the northwest Missouri town of Skidmore in 2004. She used a rope to strangle Stinnett, who was 8 months pregnant, and then cut the baby girl from the womb with a kitchen knife. Montgomery took the child with her and attempted to pass the girl off as her own. An appeals court granted Montgomery a stay of execution Tuesday. Shortly after, another appeals court lifted an Indiana judge's ruling that found she was likely mentally ill and couldn't comprehend she would be put to death. But both appeals were lifted, allowing the execution of the only female on federal death row to go forward. As the only woman on federal death row, Montgomery had been held in a federal prison in Texas and was brought to Terre Haute on Monday night. Montgomery's legal team says she suffered sexual torture, including gang rapes, as a child, permanently scarring her emotionally and exacerbating mental health issues that ran in her family. At trial, prosecutors accused Montgomery of faking mental illness, noting that her killing of Stinnett was premeditated and included meticulous planning, including online research on how to perform a C-section.